But if you're here primarily as someone who loves NWSL and you're like, you know what? I already subscribe to Paramount Plus. I watch a ton of NWSL matches. Now I'm going to get into Women's Super League as well. There's a ton of crossover here, which I think is most exciting for you and I, Lisa, because it's like we were thinking about how much overlap there is and how many players have ties to NWSL clubs, their former clubs at this point, but now find themselves having success in women's super league. We obviously the biggest one is we mentioned Sam Kerr, probably one of the more prolific players still playing overseas in women's super league, but we said racking up golden boots during her time in NWSL, making playoff appearances with the Chicago Red Stars, and now racking up titles in women's super league. But there's a ton of other players across women's super league here with ties to other national teams, whether it's Scotland's women's national team or Iceland's women's national team, or even CONCACAF players as well. So we'll get into that. But some other players that NWSL fans might be familiar with overseas with women's super league is Rachel Corsi. She's somebody who spent some time in NWSL since 2015. Scottish International was with Seattle Reign from 2015 to 2017, and Utah Royals from 2018 to 2020, and had a brief stint with Kansas City Current before making the move to Aston Villa now.
Yeah, Rachel Corsi, definitely a big player that NWSL fans will remember from her time in the NWSL. Also, Kim Little, she spent time here previously before this season as well. So from 2014 to 2016, she was with Seattle Reign. And then most recently, she came on loan to OL Reign over the summer. Little plays for Arsenal, so you can watch her there. A player that was with the Thorns, Dangy Brynjar's daughter.
Brynjar's daughter.
Brynjar's daughter,
yeah.
With the Thorns from 2016 to 2019. They play for West Ham United at this point. Shalina Zadorski, she's a Canadian international, but she also had time in the NWSL. She played with the Spirit from 16 to 17 and then spent a handful of years with Orlando Pride from 2018 to 2020. She currently plays for Tottenham Hotspur, who was most recently actually back in the United States. We had a fantastic interview with Shalina about coming to play in the Women's Cup at Racing Louisville against teams like OL Reign, players that she is very familiar with. She talked about her beef with some of the players and knowing them as former teammates and being on the Canadian international team and understanding so many different levels of that. I mean, that was such a fantastic interview a month ago, even. It feels like a month ago. My time is warped, Sandra.
Maybe like a few weeks. Women's Cup was what, like August 17th through the 20th, or August 14th through the 20th. So
we're already like first week of September. We're here. We're talking Women's Super League, but that was a fantastic interview with Shalina Zadorski. Go check that out for sure.
Yeah, the audience, you don't have to go that far back into time to look for the episode, because it's only been a couple weeks. It feels like yesterday, quite frankly. But I was like part of us getting the broadcast rights at Paramount Plus. I was particularly hyped was because this is the part that resonated for me. I was like, oh my goodness, like gonna get to see Kim Little in action again, and get to watch her like on the regular. Like used to watch her with the Seattle Reign, but she had that brief stint with OL, so we got to like get reintroduced to her once more, and now she's going to be spending all her time in with Arsenal in the Women's Super League. But Brynjar's daughter winning a NWSL championship with the Thorns during her time here, so ton of overlap. It's not just players, quite frankly. It's there's actually head coaches as well with the National Women's Soccer League connections. Mark Skinner, lead coach of Manchester United at the moment. Matt Beard is also someone who has spent some time coaching in NWSL. Skinner had his time primarily with Orlando Pride. And and Matt Beard was predominantly with Boston Breakers during his time with NWSL. So that's definitely a throwback. Wasn't aware that I was going to be making a Boston Breakers reference on a Women's Super League 101 episode, but hey, here we are. When there's overlap, you gotta talk about it. But yeah, cool to see some coaches, also have who have had some experience playing coaching in the United States. But there's also, we're talking a little bit about the summer of soccer and how we saw, the Lionesses go on and win the Euros, but there was also the CONCACAF W Championship that took place. So there are going to be a ton of players who are representing CONCACAF nations in the Women's Super League that you will be able to watch during this upcoming season with their respective WSL sides. And I'm really excited about so many of these players, particularly Khadijah Buchanan, because she is linking up with Chelsea. That was one of the signings in the offseason that really kind of threw things off. But she's a player representing Chelsea now and Canada's national team. But she's not the only one, Lisa.
She's not. I mean, Bunny Shaw, it's such a huge signing. But she spent time with City before. That's who she was with last year. And everyone knows Bunny Shaw from the Jamaican women's national team. She just runs it. Also on that team, Drew Spence, who plays for Tottenham now. But a lot of Canadian internationals play in the WSL. Of course, we talked about Shalina Zadorski. Khadijah Buchanan plays for Chelsea. Deanne Rose plays for Reading. Jessie Fleming also with Chelsea. So a lot of familiar faces if you're stuck in, not stuck, but a lot of NWSL, CONCACAF, you watch the W Championship. There are so many familiar faces that once you start watching the WSL, you'll be amazed at how many players you actually know. And then all of the new players you get to learn that have spent a lot of their time in the Super League and understanding the European side of things, because having different, the different nationalities and the different styles of football all come together to play and compete. That's what makes some of these teams so lethal. We just talked about Bunny Shaw going from City to Chelsea. Chelsea is just acquiring incredible players to kind of strengthen their roster, deepen their bench. This season of the Super League is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm super hyped for it. I'm that's the part that I'm really excited, for me, for Sandra, getting to line up all the soccer that I'm going to be watching, but is kind of getting reintroduced to some of these players who were participating in, CONCACAF W Championship, or the players that have had ties to both NWSL and playing and representing CONCACAF regions, and Adriana Leon is another player going to be with a new team, actually, with Manchester United, after spending some time, I believe it was with West Ham and Matt Beard. But we're talking about players who could have an impact in front of goal, and probably maybe be on some of the highlight reels. Leon is one of these attacking players that can sometimes shake some things up for opposition. So a lot of players here for folks to get acquainted with or reacquainted with on their respective club teams, and we're excited to basically be here to provide as much coverage as possible of the upcoming Women's Super League season. It's here, Lisa. It's finally arrived.